While I can't speak for the gaming community as a whole, 2021 was certainly a wild year for JRPGs and similar games. In fact, I can't remember the last time I had an entire year I was so looking forward to. And while certain flagship series may have been absent this year, the sheer number of highly anticipated sequels and remakes that came out this year felt almost unprecedented for me. So I figured for a change of pace, what better way to end this year than with a recap of everything I played. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh God, what have you done to him? So our year started off strong back in February, with two long-awaited sequels getting released in the same week, Bravely Default 2 and Persona 5S. Bravely Default 2 was a game that defied exactly zero expectation. It was a game that masterfully showed us how to do turn-based combat properly, with the Brave and Default system still providing some unique tactical advantages, and the in-depth Final Fantasy V style job system just waiting to be exploited. But of course, with that came one of the most forgettable cliche storylines this year. As a challenge to myself while I was writing this video, I tried through memory alone to remember the names of the four main characters, and I got one of them. The main heroine, Gloria, and I could not for the life of me understand why that was the one that stuck. Meanwhile, the rest of the game just kind of faded into obscurity in the back of my mind. Like, I can recall the plot of Bravely Default 1 better than I can this game, and I haven't played that game in like 6 years. Meanwhile, Persona 5S was almost the exact opposite experience. It's a game that made me realize just how much I love getting to watch the Phantom Thieves hang out. Makoto acting as Team Mom, Ryuji and Anne are lovable idiots as always, Morgana's settled into the cat lifestyle quite nicely, Yusuke and Futaba are as goofy as ever, and anti-establishment Haru is still one of the funniest things I have ever seen.
We're sorry, we just have zero trust in the police.
I told you to stop smiling when you say that.
What's more, the new characters, Wolf and Sophie, slotted into the team surprisingly naturally. It's almost like designing a game with new characters in mind rather than trying to jam them into the cracks of an already finished product is the better option. Anyways, I've loved it all. I love seeing them hang out, I love the road trip vibe, I love the super flashy menus and the upbeat awesome music. I just loved everything. Except the gameplay, which in a video game is a pretty big check against it. Ever since I tried out some of the Dynasty Warriors Gundam games back in the day, I've always assumed this sort of hack-and-slash swarm combat wasn't for me. But if a series ever had a chance of changing my mind on that, it would be Persona. And at first, it was fun, a lot of different characters to try out with different styles and whatnot. But over time, as I mastered each of them, which took a surprisingly short amount of time, I started to feel the repetitiveness of the combat. And by the end of the game, I found myself turning the difficulty down to the easiest setting. Not because the game was hard or anything, but because I just wanted to get through it as quickly as possible. So February ended up leaving me with two games, one that I enjoyed playing but skipped every cutscene, and one I loved watching but could not stomach a second playthrough. And I'm still not sure which I consider a better game. Well, moving on, as the year continued, I ended up playing the only brand new IP I played this year, The World's End Club. One of the first games created by the new, awkwardly named studio, 2Kyo Games, who, if you don't know, is a company founded by several key people from Spike Chunsoft, who helped make the Danganronpa and Zero Escape series. Technically, this game came out last year, but only on the Apple iOS store, so this year marks off the first time the game actually made it into real human hands. Anyways, this game starts off trying to differentiate itself from Danganronpa by having a half-hour-long segment that is 100% just a callback to Danganronpa, before ditching that idea entirely and instead turning into a puzzle platformer about a bunch of kids trekking across Japan. No, we're totally over Danganronpa. That's why we decided to do like a bait and switch. Anyways, the game itself is, fine. The strongest point, like most things these guys write, is the characters, who are a pretty endearing bunch, but the rest of it falls pretty flat. The game does deal with a few heavier themes, but the resolution to them is usually pretty simplistic. and the gameplay is just insultingly easy. Like, the biggest challenge to this game is the weird amount of input lag for every button press. Is that like a thing because it was a mobile game or something? I don't know. As we moved into the middle of the year, 2 sequels came out which I didn't actually play, but I still wanted to touch on. First, there was Neo: The World Ends With You. Good for you, TWEWY fans. I guess it just shows you can never truly count a series down and out. I mean, 13 years between games is a heck of a long time. But hey, if this did well, maybe other long dormant series will be encouraged to try making a new, Oh. Well, at least I hear the game itself was pretty good, so, you know, if this is the last TWEWY, I can think of worse ways for a series to end. Moving on from there, we got the 9th installment of the Ys series, which, is there like a secret underground die-hard Ys fandom I've never seen before? Like, I've met people who've played Ys. I've played Ys, but I've never met somebody who's like ride or die for Ys. And yet, as far as I can tell, this is the 2nd oldest JRPG that's still making games, I think. Like, it's older than both SMT and Final Fantasy. What the heck is keeping this series afloat? Oh, whatever, it's not like it's a bad thing. I'm not trying to diss Ys or anything. They're perfectly fine games. I'm just a little surprised is all. So you know what? Good for you, Ys. You keep on trucking on. Oh, and keep making that good music, because that shit is a fucking banger. Oh, and speaking of fucking bangers, Daisuke Ishibatari released a new album this year. And coming from the rock god of video games himself, as you can expect, it was hype as all hell. That being said, the price tag for his new album was pretty exorbitant. Although apparently there was some sort of like tech demo that came with it that you were supposed to like play with, and then you could like listen to the music and it had more meaning to it or something. Maybe that's what drove the price up? I don't know. Nocturne got its long-awaited port to the modern day, and what more is there to say than it's Nocturne in all its PS2 era cult classic glory. While the price tag is a bit much for a game that is, for all intents and purposes, just an emulated PS2 game with some updated textures and a voice pack, it is nice to see older classics like this getting a chance to shine in the modern day. Disgaea 6 finally got its official release this year, and it ultimately ended up being my biggest disappointment of the year. While it's not the worst game I've ever played, it felt very hollow and bare bones as far as Disgaea goes. The game feels like less of a game than its predecessor Disgaea 5, and honestly, that's possibly the worst condemnation I can give to a sequel. Interesting features were removed, like overloads or the netherworld research. Weapon skills were completely cut, meaning character class is the only thing that matters anymore. And then there's... Look, I don't want to be that guy complaining about the change from 2D to 3D. Like, it's an inevitable change at this point, and on the surface level it looks fine. But I feel like it sucks so much of the charm and imagination from previous Disgaea games. Like, I used to get excited leveling up my characters because I wanted to see what crazy moves they would come up with next. Leaping off your spear 100 miles into space, launching a blast into a ring of asteroids, causing a ricochet effect to bring all of them crashing into the moon, which in turn brings the entire fucking moon down on your pathetic enemies' heads! Ascend until you're literally on the edge of the Milky Way in order to launch a massive fucking arrow, which passes past every planet along its way to Earth. But once it arrives, instead of crashing into your enemies, instead it flies past directly into the sun, creating a black hole which wipes out everything that opposes you. And then of course there's Flawnzilla, one of the greatest things man has yet created. Compared to that, the attacks of this game feel so underwhelming. I make lightning, so here's lightning. And because all of them are always cutaways rather than actually playing out on the screen, most of them don't have the cathartic oomph that simpler attacks had back in the day, like Boomerang Axe or Cocktail Shaker.
Here you go! There! Here you go!
Oh, watching all those numbers on screen does stuff to me. Everything just feels so lifeless and half-assed, including the in-game cutscenes, by the way. And they got rid of Flawnzilla. Like, what the fuck? Honestly, I can't recommend anyone play this game. If you want to play a Disgaea game, just play Disgaea 5. It's readily available and a much better game. Moving from there, we get something that I thought would never see the light of day. An actual Western release of the Great Ace Attorney! I guess Capcom finally pulled their fingers out of their ears and realized that maybe we could relate to a character of a different race. Well, whatever. Better late than never, I guess. And ultimately, the game was just really damn good. It didn't exactly do anything to really shake up the Ace Attorney format in any way, but it was just really solid. A game just chocked full of memorable characters. Ryunosuke is a lovable dork, Susato is arguably the best assistant we've ever had, Herlock Sholmes steals the entire show, and Iris managed to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that come with creating a child genius character. There are also a couple interesting new additions, like Gregson being a surprisingly nuanced detective character, and Gina Lestrade, who wins the award for most surprisingly adorable character of the year. All in all, a great game that I think everyone who likes the Ace Attorney series should definitely try. Toby Fox released the long-awaited second chapter of Deltarune, which, yeah, pretty good game. And if all goes according to plan, we should be playing the final chapter circa 2121. I had mixed feelings going into Tales of Arise. These past 15 years or so, Tales of games have been pretty rocky to say the least. I mean, it started off with Vesperia, which was pretty unanimously loved, sure, but after that came Hearts, which no one played. There was Tales of Graces, which was basically Bamco coming together to write the most hackneyed, generic anime plot ever conceived. And then Xillia, which was interesting, perhaps even endearing, you could say, but also very dumb. Hey guys, can I still hang out with you? What? You just revealed to us that you're part of a terrorist organization that plans on destroying our entire planet. Why on earth would we let you back in our group? Oh, well, you see, I'm over that, and I'm really sorry about it. Okay, yeah, fuck it, you're back in. And there was Xillia 2, which, you know, had a decent plot about the past characters reconnecting with one another, and another decent plot about a new guy named Luger connecting with his daughter from the future, and absolutely no connection between the two plots whatsoever. Also the worst villains in any video game ever. And finally, you had Zestiria, or as I like to call it, literally the worst written game I have ever played. But, then they came out with Berseria, which was not only a pretty damn good game, but it also managed to somehow retroactively make Zestiria more interesting. So I was unsure how to feel about Arise. So I went into the game cautious but optimistic. And having beaten the game, I can say with certainty, it's very Tales of. It has a lot of the elements that make Tales of games great, while still keeping a lot of the problems as well. The combat, for starters, is some of the best the series has ever seen, making combos quick and satisfying to pull off, and if you do it right, you can combo nearly infinitely. As with most Tales of, the world building is extraordinary. Over the course of the game, we learn the world's storied past, the struggles of the different people living on it, what magic is in this game, how it works, how the monsters work. I mean, if you have a question about anything in this world, there is probably an answer somewhere within this game. It also tackles some interesting main themes, which in this game involves one race enslaving another, and how to deal with the aftermath when the downtrodden manage to win back their freedom. But herein lies the problem. Namely, the game's writing isn't good enough to handle these problems in any sort of meaningful way. Let me give you an example, and I'll be as vague as possible so as not to spoil anything here. At one point in the game, one of your party members reveals that they've had a secret agenda this entire time. The reason they've been working with us is that they want revenge on one of the bad guys. And that just so happens to be the bad guy you're facing at that moment. So, our party member will kill that bad guy and have their revenge. But before they can, another party member steps in the way of their attack, telling them, no, you mustn't strike down our enemy in anger. If you kill them with only revenge on your mind, you'll become no worse than they are. Which is a problem, because up until this point, we've had a pretty rigorous understanding going. We will kill the bad guys if we have to, because they would kill us if we don't. Nothing is going to change if we don't take these bad guys down, because they are not going to willingly stop oppressing the people around them. In fact, for one particular enemy we already killed, revenge was very much a part of the reason why we did so. So what the hell is this Jedi? Anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. BS you're pulling out now. It feels so out of nowhere, like the developers just wanted to throw in some conflict and pulled this sorry excuse out of their asses. And that happens a lot over this game. Some interesting ideas get brought forth, but their solution is either pulled out of someone's ass or just really childish. You know, friendship solves everything. Overall, I enjoyed Tales of Arise a lot, but the series still has a lot of kinks it needs to work out. Pokemon released the Gen 4 remakes a lot of fans have been asking for ages, and well, I mean, what is there really to say at this point? You have your own opinion of Pokemon, and nothing I say could change that. I mean, it's literally the biggest video game franchise on Earth. Everyone has an opinion on the new Pokemon. There's no point in me wasting time talking about it. I mean, sure, I could talk about the fact that these games look worse than games that came out of the fucking GameCube. Or I could talk about Pokemon's stubborn refusal to integrate positive changes that they made over the years and instead focus on the same tired formula they always shit out. I could complain about the fact that the EXP share is impossible to turn off, turning an already easy experience into a game with literally no challenge. I could talk about the fact that Platinum is literally a better game and it would have taken them no effort whatsoever to copy that instead of Diamond and Pearl. Like, what the fuck, Pokemon? How could you fuck something up so glaringly obvious? What brain-dead idiot would possibly stand by and defend this kind of lazy, unoriginal game design? But yeah, like I said, it would be pointless for me to talk about it. Shin Megami Tensei 5. We've been waiting years, and here it is at last. So how did it finally measure up? Was it the be-all, end-all, the SMT to finally surpass Nocturne and unite the fandom once and for all, Three Houses style? Or would it end up being an incomplete mess, unable to ever come close to living up to the hype it had set up? Well, the answer is complicated. Let's start with the bad, shall we? The story of SMT5 is possibly the worst I've ever seen in an SMT. Now obviously there are good elements to it. I really like the backstory going on here. Basically, God, the Judeo-Christian Yahweh God, took the power and knowledge of every other god in existence and made it so that he was the only one left. But then ended up getting killed by Lucifer, and now the world is on the brink of collapse, and populated by a fading army of angels fighting desperately, clinging to the hope that maybe their god is still alive, and an ever-growing army of demons just waiting to run rampant in a world with no more rules. It's a very interesting setting that feels traditionally SMT, while also feeling like a fresh take on the whole genre. But past that point, there ain't much to go on. The characters are some of the weakest I've ever seen. I mean, okay, SMT has never been one for deep, multifaceted characters. They're more vessels designed to gravitate towards one ideal, usually law, neutral, or chaos. But at the same time, they're still characters. Walter and Jonathan are both idiots, and Isabeau couldn't tie her own shoelaces without Flynn's help, but like, you care about them. You hang out with them for the entire game. They do stuff that isn't related to their end goal. You get the sense that they were characters before life led them down this end path. Here, when I was offered the choice at the end of which path I wanted to choose, I didn't want any of them. They all seemed terrible. I hadn't grown particularly attached to any one of them. Most of them just felt like pawns following their path because Atlas needed someone to follow that path. The game feels incomplete, I guess. Like, it feels like there are big jumps in the game's story where stuff was supposed to happen, but for whatever reason, it had to be cut. For example, one chapter ends with you defeating a rather powerful demon who had just run amok inside of Tokyo. And it's kind of like, ooh, the demons are growing bolder and trying to break into the human world. What's gonna happen? Only for the next chapter to just jump straight into, bam, you're fighting the Demon King now. It's the big war between demons and angels. The Antichrist is coming. The end of days. Like, what a fucking jump. Is this really what SMT has become? But that's not all there is to it, is there? There are just certain things in this game that I've never had anywhere else. The combat is solid. It builds off SMT4 Apocalypse's system with proficiencies, which is always nice and making demons feel more varied, only now with the new Essence system getting new skills to become far less of a pain in the ass. There's also a lot more unique attacks floating around, giving a both visual and gameplay reason to try out a variety of different demons, which is always cool. Then there's the music. Oh, the music. I mean, SMT has never been lacking in the music department, don't get me wrong, but this time, they went for quantity. There are a lot of different combat themes in this game, which is a huge deal because no matter how banging a combat theme may be, hearing it 300 times in a row will start to grate on you. Anyways, back on track, not only are there a lot of themes, but they're all really damn good and varied in tone and genre. You got a couple things that bring to mind the PS2 rock vibe, others that are a more tantric, otherworldly feel like SMT4, and others that are there's this weird sort of techno-trance thing that are just awesome. The world of this game is amazing. It's so big and full of interesting things to explore, and the atmosphere is just, ugh. I've never played a game with atmosphere quite like this, at least not to this extent. As you go through the world, passing through dilapidated skyscrapers, jumping over rusted out and broken cars left to rot on sand-strewn and crumbling streets, you really start to feel like you're alone. Like you are the last survivor in a barren, dead world. The only things left alive are the monstrous demons that prowl the land. And boy howdy did Atlus do an amazing job at bringing the demons to life. I've always been a sucker for little details, and this game is full of them. You walk into this cave and find a bunch of mysterious, dark figures hanging from the ceiling. You take a couple tentative steps forward, but surprisingly, they don't move. With more confidence now, you begin to move forward, but suddenly you realize you've made a noise and awoken the demons from their slumber. You go over here and you get a brilliant view of a vast open field stretching out beneath you, where you can see herds of bicorn running freely in circles over the plains. You go over here where you find a small cave where a gathering of weak demons are worshipping a lone Asperus. You go into the ruins of a city where you find Zens perched on light poles just waiting to attack anything that comes in their range. Tsuchigomos stand stubbornly, guarding their territory, only reacting when you get close. You enter a ruined building on the outskirts of the city and you find these three guys arguing with each other about what the best kind of trash is. And that's not even mentioning the crazy amount of unique dialogue when you converse with demons in combat. The demons just bring so much life into this world. This is everything I could have possibly asked from an SMT open world-ish experience. And at the end of the day, while this is by no means a perfect game, it is still probably the best gaming experience I've had this year. So, well done, Atlus. You may not have done everything perfectly, but the parts you did right, you did pretty damn right. Wait a minute. Inugami doesn't do the loop-de-loop thing that he did in Nocturne. Oh, fuck this game. 0 out of 10.